Welcome. We are here with Harvey Howard, the person who has seen the most amount of marriages go from crisis to Christ, including my own. After 8 years in the ministry, he was there that day. We'll get into that later on. We have some shout outs to get into, and we want to thank you guys because we are at 10,000 followers and actually like 10,500 on Facebook. We're almost to 100 on Instagram, and we're looking forward to getting 10,000 on YouTube as well.
Yep.
We're looking forward to that day.
Oh, yeah.
But thank you guys. Keep subscribing. Keep hitting that bell so you can get all the notifications to all our shows. So thank you guys very much. And also, make sure you guys follow us on TikTok as well. Mike Harvey's got some stuff he's putting out. We've got Tom Touchstone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on there. But look at all the stuff there. It all comes together on this show. But go ahead and follow all that.
Yeah,
good stuff.
yeah, and like you said, we're doing the TikToks. All of it's really to lead back to Christ is ultimately the goal. And in that, we're also building our email list. So we'll drop a link on the screen for you guys here, and also below in the comments and everything. Would love to see you join that and hear all about all the cool things we're doing. We're sending you with resources to equip you in your walk and to further the kingdom of God.
Yeah, definitely. And as you watch the show, you may think of questions for maybe Hobby, for me, for Mike. Send them in via Instagram or Facebook, or you can go to our webpage at The Real Lunch Break Show. I think it's .com, but you can go on there, you can find it, and you can just message us. We love your guys' questions. They could actually make a show from your guys'
Yeah, and
questions.
most of us see that. You see that, I see that, Tom sees that.
Yeah, definitely. But we do have a question from you guys, and I think we got the right man for this question today.
I hope so.
But, I mean, I even went to a marriage conference last week, and it was amazing to see how many marriages were in the room. And you could tell we were all happy to be there. But the question is, how do you see the marriage health in America? Because COVID has happened, and I know myself, I guess I'll answer first, but myself, I have witnessed a lot of Christian and non-Christian marriages not make it.
Yeah.
Just like the trouble, it reached the highest level possible for them and they didn't make it. So as I view the marriages in America, I see some that are coming out like lions because they've never been through such difficulty and survived. But then I see a lot of them they're just, I mean, there's barely a pulse on that marriage,
Right.
you know?
Right.
That's kind of my perspective on how I view the marriages in America right now. What about you, Hawk?
Well, here's what I would say to that. I know that if you had issues in marriage going into the pandemic, then they were more than likely magnified.
Oh,
You know, it's one of those deals where you're by your spouse and you're going to be with your spouse. And for a lot of us, I guess I shouldn't use the word trapped, but we were there nonstop, like we were almost like we were retired, you know, and we would be there with each other all the time. And I think that magnified a lot of issues. If you hadn't dealt with those issues before, they surfaced, but for sure. So,
oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is good. What do you think, Mike?
Well, I would say I've seen very similar. For me, like you know, I have an amazing wife, right? And
Yeah.
I can't, like, every time I get a chance, I want to say how great she is. But
He totally got way more brownie points than me and Hobby.
I know,
Gosh,
I
we
know.
missed it.
and it's on film.
Yeah. Good answer, Mike. Good
Watch
answer.
this, honey, again.
but I think we got closer, right?
Yes.
During that time. But I did see the same thing. Like, a lot of people
Right.
pull apart, or like the closeness, like you said, I think it just magnified problems that were over there that
Right.
hadn't been dealt with. For us, like, we're like, one of our biggest things is just communication. So we're always communicating. And sometimes that communication looks ugly. But we make a point to, like, talk it out or even fight it out if we have to.
Sure.
Wow.
Well, I think what you see a lot of times with couples is that they're in this marriage place and they haven't been given any tools on how to deal with it. And so now they're having to come up with ways to work through it. And the church is kind of on hold, so to speak, or you're doing everything online and people haven't been connecting together. And
Right.
you need to be with other couples to do life
Absolutely.
without question. And I mean, that's why God created us, for relationship.
Yep.
And yet here we are so many times trying to work in an isolation vacuum, or whatever you want to call it. And now you're really isolated.
Yeah.
You're made to be isolated because you're mandated to be isolated.
Mandated isolation.
Yeah, I know. You're
Well,
stuck.
what's funny is you say that, and I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. And for me, it's easy. I'm an extrovert, right? But for my wife, she's more of an introvert.
He's an extrovert. I never would have.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
But for my wife, like, I almost like set up like woman dates for her to go hang out with other. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I know she needs, and my buddy's wife needs other women. Like, let's just get them together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a great question. And we're going to talk a lot more about marriage later on. And I know that that's going to come back up. But definitely, that's a great question. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to send those in. Also, we want to just give some credit to some people who are part of this show. We've got Nathaniel Tweed over there helping us out today. How you doing, Nathaniel? Putting this together. He's actually doing all of this by himself. Look
Solo
at him.
tonight.
You can see him in the camera, all by himself.
I'm alone back here today.
Hey, he's a seasoned veteran, though, man.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Nathan, for being here and setting up and stuff, man. You're amazing. Also, we've got Tessa and Taylor Touchstone, creative consultants, and Mike Harvey, our producer, who's actually hosting with me today, which is awesome.
It's always fun to do.
Yeah, and soon we may even have some consulting from our very special friend, Josh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeti.
Looking forward to it. I got some really nice words from him today.
Yeah, super encouraging. When leaders reach out to us about our show, it makes us
Yeah.
just, you know,
Yeah.
gets us pumped.
Pumps you up. That's right. That's right. I can do this. I can do
Yeah,
this.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. So, Hobby, this is your show. And so we're going to start with like, so you were born, no, I'm just kidding. We're not going that far back.
Yeah, you don't want to go that far back. So.
But definitely, as we get into your story, I will share how he rescued and helped my marriage. But we're not there yet, so calm down, audience. But you were a fisherman at some point in time, right? Because we've got photo number 1. Tell us a little bit about that photo. You're fishing.
I could tell you what was going on in that photo. Buddies of mine during the summer, we lived in the San Joaquin Valley. Said let's go out to Friant. He fished the San Joaquin River just below Friant Dam, and they're going to stock this thing with tons of trout. And we just went out there and went crazy, and we just had a blast. Good, clean, healthy fun. We didn't have phones to be on. We didn't have all this other distractions. We had our fishing poles, and we were having a blast. And so those are days that I miss because that's when I was 17, and I don't know that you want to know my age right now.
No, we won't go there, but but that was a while back.
Yeah, it was. It was. Good days, good times.
That's good. Do you still like to fish?
I love it. I love it. In fact, we just moved to Bakersfield about a year ago. And though I'm originally have roots in the Central Valley, I don't know a lot of places other than maybe the Kern and a few places. So I'm looking forward to finding some spots. And I understand you're going to set me up.
Oh,
with
yeah.
that. So
Yeah, Adrian's the man.
I know. I understand.
He likes to get out.
Yeah, he told me about it. So he's going to get me going. So
Yeah, there's all kinds of
Yep.
awesome places
Yep.
to fish. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you know I know how to catch fish. So
there you go. There you go.
definitely, I'm not ashamed to post a picture of the fish I catched. I will show them off. So in your life, there's a lot of different parts. So we're going to go from
Mhm.
the very beginning with you. So you are a husband. And
Yes.
we've got a picture of your better half here.
Yes,
And you
she is
together.
that. Yeah.
So in that picture, tell us a little bit about how long have you guys been married?
Diane and I have been married for 35 years, and we are blessed immensely. We do not have a perfect marriage, but we have a marriage that's centered around Christ. We're always aiming in that direction, but we still have our struggles, but we've always continued to grow. And she is someone that I'm continually having to learn about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to be a studier of my wife. That's one of the things that I want to continue to move forward as we grow closer together year after year. So
That's great. And so that 35 years of
Yep.
marriage, did you get that from your parents? Did you learn that? I mean, were they like preachers and they knew
No.
all about marriage?
no. My wife and I are first generation believers.
Wow.
And
That's so cool.
so and I say that we became Christians in our youth, but going into this marriage thing, it was more of a I don't know. Well, look at your mom and dad. Look at your mom and dad. We'll just kind of throw some models out there, and what's the television's got some models, and we didn't know. In fact, I can still remember going to our premarital counseling, and the pastor's saying, "I got 2 videos for you. I want you to watch both of them, and then we'll get you married."
Huh.
And I mean, it's like, really?
That's
Okay, that sounds
crazy.
simple, you know. And so I guess I would say we're fortunate, blessed to be able to still be together based on that result of what we've given us. But no, so we've had to learn and grow, and our kids all our kids know the Lord, and we've told them, you know, we may have kind of, you know, stepped all over you a little bit with what's supposed to be, but you're going to do it better because you're second generation. You know what it looks like, and so we've been blessed. They've been able to share with us a few times. You know, you get to see just the glimpses of the fruit when they say, "Well, we look at you guys in your marriage. That's what we want." And so we've got a chance to see a little bit of that. From them as
So
well.
what do you think's been the biggest key to staying married that long?
Focused on each other, commitment. I mean, divorce is not an option ever. That word would never come out. And then just the fact that we both love the Lord and we aim in that direction. We aim towards Him. I mean, He needs to be the center of your marriage.
Yep.
I mean, it's easier said than done. I get that because the obstacles that we all have to deal with in our marriages are there. You guys can probably think of in your marriages, and I know that you have a story, Adrian, about that. But it's just there's just so many things out there that could tear you apart, and that's why I have concern and fears for my kids because they're 4 of the 5 are married, and you know they need to focus on that because they have much more to battle than we did.
Yeah, and we have a picture of the full family right there. You can see he has a lot of
That's
kids.
a big family.
Did you beat me? How many kids do you have?
I have 5 kids.
I win. Yes.
Not yet, but soon to be.
I have 1 on the way. I'm winning.
Yeah. But are you broke?
Almost. Almost.
But the question, I've got 5 kids, 3 boys, 2 girls. The girls are bookends, the 3 boys.
Awesome.
And in fact, I was just on the phone with one tonight, and he reached out to me, and he remembers a little bit of an argument that we had months ago. And he said, "Dad, I'm just calling to say, you know what? I don't think I handled that right." And he knows the Lord. I'm going, I don't even know what you're talking about. But it blesses my heart to see them striving towards Jesus. But anyway, those are the blessings. And right after
5 kids, and then you have what, 1 grandkid?
I have 2. Well, technically, I have 2. I don't want to get in trouble there, but I call that my grand foster baby. If you look there on the left-hand side up there with my daughter-in-law there, she's holding him. But the 2 on the far right, my right, I guess I should say, those are my 2 kids that I spoil and cause all kinds of issues from their moms and dads because it's free. I can do whatever I want because I'm grandpa, you know. And so
they get to go home after
you got to fix it later.
Sugar.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Come on, guys, let's load you up. So
yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
that is good. That is good. So you have your grandpa, your father, your husband.
Yeah.
And you're also part of, I would say, like one of the biggest marriage ministries in the United States that I know of, Weekend to Remember.
Yeah.
And that's how I met you.
Yeah. Well, and actually, the title, just to make sure that it's called Family Life. Is really what the title of our ministry is, and we have a radio broadcast, and we have the Weekend to Remembers that you attended, and we have lots of resources. But yeah, it's a tremendous ministry, and it's actually part of Cru. It comes out of Cru, the Cru ministry, as well, formerly known as Campus Crusade for Christ.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because when I met you, I had already been a pastor for 8 years.
Right.
Me and my wife had been married for almost 10 years. And I remember I heard it on the radio. Family Life announced, Weekend to Remember. If your marriage is in crisis and you need help, call this number. And I remember going, am I going to suck it up and call?
Yeah.
Or what? And I was so relieved because I think I had to put some information in online as a pastor.
You did. And I interviewed you. You may not remember that, but I had a series of questions just to get a chance to know a little bit about him and the ministry and the church and that type of thing. So
yeah, and I remember just going like, after I talked to, I didn't know you were the interviewer, but that's awesome. But I remember the person
That's cool that you remember it, because how many people have you interviewed?
Major impact. Well, probably thousands of pastors because I've done this for 25 years. But it's just one of those deals where we have a privilege of getting to know men that are working and women that are involved in the ministry. So, but yeah.
Yeah, and so I told him about it, and then he gave me the best news ever. He said, well, it's free to you as a pastor. And I was all, what?
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, come, bring your wife, pay for the hotel, but the conference is free to you guys.
Yeah.
And we get there, and I remember my wife felt like a VIP because Harvey came over to us, and he goes, these are the pastors, are right here. And she was like, really? And then he said, yeah, you guys sit wherever you want. But I remember we left there going like, okay, we can do this. We can do this. And we left with so many tools. I mean, lots of people think because you're a pastor, because you're in leadership, or you're so spiritual that your marriage is perfect. Yeah. But I can tell you, we were not perfect, and we were in trouble. We were actually headed down that path where the D word would be said,
Yeah, yeah.
And if it wasn't for that instant in my life, we would have been there. We would have been
Well, I imagine it's actually can be harder because you have an image that you have to uphold, right? So you have to pretend everything's good even when it's not.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're not, people are going to look at you. And I mean, there's all kinds of issues. And I'm sure, and from your wife's standpoint too, pastor's wife, she has to lead this life that everyone sees. And it's not always a truthful life all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's a mask. Well, we all put on masks when we go to church sometimes. Yeah. And it's a mask that's even more on place, or in her case, and in your case too, because you got people looking for you for guidance. You guys can't have a marriage that's hurting because you're our leaders.
Yeah, definitely. But that was a breath of fresh air. We left there with so many tools. Could you tell us, like, because most people don't even know what Weekend to Remember is. Like, what to you, what is that? Because you're there. You see the people sitting on opposite sides of the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the weirdest thing.
There's stories everywhere. Yeah. Well, the Weekend to Remember is an event where couples come together. And let me back up to say, before we move into it, you talk about crisis in marriages. And yes, we're there to help save marriages. There's no question about that. But it's also a place where couples come and say, you know what, I want to invest in my marriage. We invest in so many things. I know you and I were talking before the broadcast. We get our bikes and our shoes and our equipment. That's all cool stuff. Yeah. I love it. But we need to be investing in stuff that actually does have eternal rewards.
Yeah.
And our marriage is one of them, because we know that God's word starts off with a marriage and it ends in a marriage. And so with that in mind, we need to make sure that we're investing in the right things. I mean, most of us, I think, would tune up our vehicles or give an oil change because we want that thing to last.
Yeah.
And yet we're a society that is very reactive. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have been reactive because you knew that you needed to, but but we also need to be proactive and say, let's get out in front of this thing. And that's why I'm thinking, wouldn't it have been different in the case of the pandemic if people had a lot of the tools and things that they needed before this thing? No, we didn't know it was going to happen.
Yeah.
But still, it's one of those things. So, but the weekend itself is a chance for couples to come. You're not going to get in groups or anything like that. You're going to go and you're going to listen to couples up front that are transparent, that sometimes have had a marriage that in crisis or struggled before in the past.
Yeah.
And they share their hearts. They talk about the biblical blueprints of marriage, communication, resolving conflict, intimacy.
They have the sex talk.
Yes, that always tend to perk up the guys. I'm going to be there. The guys we'll make sure the guys are always showing up on that. That was usually a Saturday afternoon. It's amazing how that happens. But no, and people will come and you talk about people sitting in the opposite sides of the ballroom. Well, you'll see people come on Friday nights to our events that their countenance is such that they don't want to be there. They definitely don't want to hold hands. They probably have fought all the way to the event.
All the way, yeah.
And then by Saturday afternoon, Sunday, they've been given life. And it's because of God's word that says, I need to be the center of this marriage. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Right.
And these tools all point to that. And we obviously have a chance for couples to come to know the Lord if they don't as well. Don't get me wrong. But it's an opportunity for people to walk away. And it's exciting. I mean, it's funny. As you remember, it's
the videos are super funny.
They will keep you on your toes. It's just a great time of fellowship and with people. And I think the thing that I've noticed through the years, and by the way, you said here that I've seen a lot of crisis, not the most of anybody, but I appreciate that. But I would say what I've seen a lot of that men struggle coming to our events because of pride. And because if I go to this event, my buddies are going to think something's wrong with my marriage. And it's kind of almost like the pastor thing we were talking about a minute ago. If I go to this thing, people might look, but further from the truth, you're going because you want to have a marriage that will last.
That's
beyond
right.
And here's what I can say. Like I said, my wife and I don't have a perfect marriage, but we love each other intensely. We move towards one another, and we see that through Christ in terms of him being the center of our marriage.
Yeah.
So.
And one of the tools that I got there that I will never forget, and I come from that 50-50 culture, and I remember it was day one.
Yep.
And they said, marriage is not a 50-50 contract. It's a 100% contract.
Yep.
And it's non-negotiable. If she doesn't give you 100%, your 100% still has to be in there. And I was like, my mind just went.
Right.
What does the Bible call that? Not a contract, but a covenant, right?
A covenant.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Good word. Yep. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I was going to share what we do at the end of the event, but I don't want to do that because there may be people who want to attend, and so there's a little surprise that goes with that. But covenant is the right word. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Don't tell them.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not
You
gonna
got to
go
go
Save
to
the
the
surprise.
there. You
event.
go and enjoy the event. And so, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the other thing too is there's tools and books. Like that was the
There
first
is.
time I ever encountered books on marriage that were biblical based, that were kind of in a way guiding you in the right direction. You know, sometimes books just tell you what's wrong.
Right.
And those books actually give you tools on how to fix it and things like that.
Sure.
Actually, the first book on being a man that I ever read came from that marriage retreat.
That's cool.
The
What's the name of the book?
It was Tender Warrior by Stu Weber.
Yeah.
And you gave it to me.
That's cool.
Did I
So-
steal it? You told me I stole it, didn't I?
I don't know,
Yeah.
but I took it with me.
Yeah, at the resource center, I think I said, this guy needs this book, and I had to go pay for it later. But anyway, so yeah.
But thank you. And just so you know, that was years ago. We've been married 21 years now.
Awesome.
21 years.
Yeah,
So,
congratulations.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And we still go to the Weekend to Remember. We still, like, if there's a marriage conference at VBF or anywhere, we go. Like, even if we're feeling good about our marriage, we just go.
It's
We're the same.
investment. It's investment.
I would have gone to the one the other night that I saw you go to if I would have known.
Yeah. It was, and it's all,
Yeah.
you're right about investment. Even
Yeah.
like date night. I
Yeah.
learned that
Yeah.
at
Right.
the Weekend to Remember.
Right. And so it's Valentine's, and I'm going to a restaurant local down there. And who do I see in there? This guy coming out about 4:00. He did the early showing.
Yeah, I was
I was
smart.
It was smart before the crowds came. We got there at 5, and it's getting kind of crowded. But I saw you investing in your marriage on Valentine's. That was
Yes.
good stuff. So
Yes, and I learned that. I mean, I didn't know that, and I think a lot of people they don't know how to go about it. They don't have the tools. And I mean, even when my daughters are dating guys, I always ask them, "Who taught you how to
Right.
take care of my daughter?"
right.
And
That's cool.
and a lot of times they'll say nobody,
Right.
and I'll be like, "Are you open for me to teach you?"
Right.
And sometimes they'll say yes. And sometimes
There's a right answer to that question.
Yeah, they better say yes.
I can tell you right now, I told this to my daughters, and I know that I'm old school. I get it, and I completely get it. But they know that if they were going to have someone date them, that they had to come talk to me.
Yes.
They both didn't like it, but my oldest daughter shared some things with me that really blessed my heart, just about the fact that I was willing to step into her life in that way. But, it's important that we do that. And these are just some of the things in a general sense that we can remember. It talks about you as a parent as well. So that's part of the whole element. I mean, it's geared around
Yes.
just marriage, but we do talk about that, as you remember. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they sell a book kit too, and all kind. I feel like I'm doing a commercial for them.
Well, no,
But they
yeah.
definitely have all kinds of things like
Well,
that.
I think you're encouraging because how much of an impact it made in your life, and you've seen it make in others too.
Right.
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
it's not like you get nothing out of telling people to go.
Yeah. I don't get any commission for this, just so you know. But I will tell you.
I don't either.
Yeah.
And I'm in the ministry, so yeah.
Yeah.
But no, we just want to go and we want to bless couples.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely.
So I have a question for you.
Sure, fire away.
If we have a couple who's watching this show right now and they're struggling in their marriage, and maybe they're like, well, the Weekend to Remember is a thing, but I can do that, but like, what's something I can do right now today?
Well, one of the things that I would encourage, first of all, are you plugged into the church? Or do you have a body of believers? Are you in a small group? Are you in a place where you can be with other couples to do life? That's something. I mean, that doesn't happen necessarily today, but that's one of the steps I would start to take for sure. There's a lot of great resources. We're not the only ministry for marriages out there. There's a lot of great ministries, but I would say the encouragement would be they could go on, for example. They go to familylife.com, and we have a lot of resources that deal with their particular issue, whatever that is. Okay, so they could go there and receive a tool, so to speak. That's all. That stuff's free. Or they could do the book thing. But the bottom line is there's a lot of stuff out there, I believe. But I think what's happened, and I've noticed it a lot within the church itself, is that couples aren't they're not re-engaging back into the church like they should. And I know that mandates have kind of softened and things are opening up. But that's they need to get in the church, and they've got to be involved and do life with other couples. It's so critical. We were not made to isolate.
Right.
But we all do it, or even extroverts isolate to a degree. So but you got to be careful, and that's dangerous, very dangerous.
Yeah, and I would say too, like, let somebody know that you trust. Because I think what's happening a lot is, I know I did that before. I'm not like that anymore. If there's any struggle, I'm very open with people I trust about it. But tell somebody you trust and pray with them about it. You know, that's a big thing when you have that connection. And even in the church, reach out, call your local church and get in there. They may not be marriage counseling, but they'll guide you there to where you can get it, you know.
Well, there is something that I learned, and this applies to a lot of things, but I think it applies to marriage as well. If you are having a rough marriage, I think make a decision. So in the root of decision is to decide to cut off. So to cut yourself off from any other possibility, but succeeding and making a change in your marriage.
Yeah, oh, that's good.
Well, it starts there. I mean, let me tell you this: the Week to Remember doesn't save marriages. Yeah, it gives you the tools to move in that direction for the couples who are in crisis. And I'm speaking to anybody, whether it's good marriages or whatever. They give you the tools, but what needs to happen is you got to take that and do something with it. You have to make the decision to make the change. Yeah, you know, and I got to tell you something. It's, to me, the more I've been thinking about it, especially this past year, the word that keeps coming up is pride. We're so prideful, and I think more of the men are. The men. More than anything. I don't necessarily think the women are as much, but I got to be careful with that statement. But for sure, I think pride gets in the way. And no, I don't need to do that. And farther from the truth, the enemy loves that. You know, we are in a battle right now for marriages. The churches, our ministry is, you name it. We're in a battle for marriages right now. And if you're involved with trying to help in that area, you have a target on your back. Absolutely. Because the enemy feels like he owns it. And so what are we going to do about that? Well, we got to move towards Jesus. There's no question about that. How do we go about that? Well, we do it like you say, make the decision, move forward, get involved with other couples. That's right. That know the Lord, you know, do life with people. Yeah. You know, we were not cut out for isolation.
Community is so
important. We need relationship.
Yeah, I mean, that reminds me of what happened during the pandemic. Pastor Ron Vietti, he got up and he felt the Holy Spirit move on him to say, there's somebody in this room that is struggling with suicide, right? And he said 2 people are struggling with it. And this is crazy. A couple stood up. A couple.
That's
and they weren't amazing. Yeah, and it was like, that's when my eyes were open to how bad it was. I was like, whoa. Both, not one. And it was like, and you have to, but those people got the help they needed. Right. That day they got it. But you do sometimes, you need to stand up. You need to stand up for your marriage. You need to reach out for it. Don't keep doing the same thing, because that won't change anything. Right. But that day, that was amazing. You know, they stood up for it and they said, no, we want something new. We want something different.
Yeah, it takes courage. And when someone does that, people need to rally around them and say, we love you and we're going to be there. And that's where the church comes involved. You know, I mean, we all have places, but we need to be in a place of fellowship where we can grow. And so the reason I'm so big on that is because I just feel like that's one of the major issues of what took place with the pandemic. We were isolated mandated wise or whatever you want, however you want to say it. And so now we got, people are starting to come back in place, and no longer mask. And so anyway, but
That's good.
yeah.
Yeah. So I've got one last question for you. This is the hardest question
Jeez,
ever
Here we go.
because I didn't even put it on the script. Sorry, Harvey. So what's something nobody knows about you? That, I mean, we've had everything from color blindness to ear wigglers to they're ambidextrous. They can use both hands to write.
Jeez.
We've got
Dyslexia.
trombone players. We've got violinists. What's something that when Family Life watches this episode, they're going to say...
I don't want Family Life to watch this stuff. You
they're going to watch it.
Watching this, gosh, thanks for putting me on the spot.
Yeah,
like
you're
that.
welcome.
So, what is something? Oh my gosh!
It doesn't have to be super deep either.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be embarrassing.
Okay, I've got one.
Okay,
but
just share it. Just go for it.
So, this is a silly one, but it's my wife. My wife knows some of the. I can't give everything.
Yeah,
I don't
give
have
everything.
Yeah, okay, but my wife knows this one for sure. I like to. One of my hobbies to be for the past 15 years is model railroading. And I've got this table that I built, and it sits in the garage, and it looks at me and says, "Are you ever going to use it?" And so. You asked for something silly. This is silly, but that's one of my hobbies is to move into that direction.
Oh, that's
I can't.
Awesome.
Gosh, there's got to be something else, but
that's
you're
awesome.
Really
that's awesome.
me
That's
here.
awesome. That's awesome. That's why we do it that way. We want to know.
We'll talk after the show.
Yeah.
So,
if I have a black eye later,
right.
you know why.
Jeez.
But I appreciate you coming on this show because you made a huge impact in my life and my wife's life, and I really wanted to thank you for that in person as well. And when I found out you lived in Bakersfield, I was like, "Thank you, Lord."
Everyone out there, I got the quickest phone call you would imagine as soon as he saw my address. I don't know how he saw it. But he said, Bakersfield, call him right away. So
anyway.
It
was great. It was great. So what's one thing you'd like to leave our audience with, just to wrap up?
Well, I guess just to make sure that you're investing in your marriage. We've talked about that already, but what does that look like? And I don't know what you're doing currently in your lives right now, everyone. I think you need to make sure that you're doing that. I think we get complacent. We get we're not. What's the when they say it, if you're not growing. You're slipping, you're going the other direction.
Incline, recline,
something like that. Yeah. So what you've got to make sure that you're moving and you're aiming in that direction. And what does that look like? Well, it starts off with Christ, but that's what I want to leave everybody with. And so we have a lot of things you can use for investment. Your church does. I'm praying that it does.
Yes.
And one of the roles that I do is I work with pastors and churches to help resource their marriage ministry. Ask a ton of pastors the question all the time. Tell me about your marriage ministry. Most will say, well, we don't really have a whole lot.
Yeah.
Because it's not a major focus on a lot of churches. So anyway, that being said, invest in your marriage. Find ways to invest. Praying together. Spending time with one another. Aiming towards Christ as the center of their marriage. So,
well, thank you very much, Holly. And we want to thank you guys for watching. We will see you next week.